So far, I think one of the more controversial aspects of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has been the character designs. Instead of going with something more akin to the previous Xenoblade games, Monolith Soft decided to acquire Metsutsugu Saito, an artist who's previously worked on a few animation projects such as Expelled from Paradise, and if I'm not mistaken, this is his first time working on a video game. It's not unheard of for anime artists to migrate to video games and back over the years. The only reason I bring it up is because Saito's designs are definitely more mainstream anime influenced than the previous few Xenoblade designers, most notably with how a lot of his characters have very large, prominent eyes, and it's obvious that it's throwing a lot of people off. Now, here's the thing. When I first saw this game, I didn't like the character designs either. In fact, I near hated them. But at this point, I know myself well enough to know that my first impression of something is usually pretty dumb and short-sighted. Most of the time, it's just me having a knee-jerk reaction to something new and dragging my biases along for the ride. Then, after a few months, I get used to it. It grows on me, then I forget why I even hated it in the first place. So now what I do is try to give things a little more time before I write them off. That's what I did with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I gave it a few months, did my research, and tried to understand why Monolith Soft would choose to bring this guy onto the team. And now, I totally get it. Back in June, Tetsuya Takahashi, the writer and head of Monolith Soft, had this to say about the plot of the game. A young adult story with a taste of boy meets girl. Lately it feels like all I've been doing are games full of devastation, like where your hometown burns down at the start, or the spaceship you're riding crashes. Oh wait, that's all I ever do. Sometimes I just want to try something different. I'll leave the stories about the solemn old men and hot stylish guys to someone else, even though there's way more demand for that stuff, and go ahead with this. Judging by this interview and a few others, it seems like Takahashi wanted to make a more light-hearted, character-driven game, which would semi-explain why they would want to go with the designs that reflect that tone. Lots of bright, distinguished colors more akin to the fantasy JRPGs of the past. But that still doesn't fully explain why they went with Saito's designs in particular. And then I found the answer in an interview conducted by French gaming website Game Cult. When asked about the more childish visual style and whether or not this was done to reach a wider audience, Takahashi replied, "Targeting a wider audience was one of our goals, but we also wanted to make it so that the characters had more facial expressions. Saito's character design is a way to make the protagonists more expressive." Well, what does he exactly mean by this? What about Saito's designs that allows him to do that? Well, here's my interpretation. If you've watched a decent amount of anime like I have, you might have picked up that when it comes to a lot of shows in this medium, the eyes are everything. They're the main source of expressing a wide range of emotions to the viewer, especially for shows in the comedic slice of life genre that rely very heavily on character interaction. The reason why most Japanese animated shows feature designs with such large eyes is because it's easy to emphasize any subtle changes in the way a character is feeling, as opposed to a lot of Western animation where the eyes, for the most part, stay the same throughout the show. The eyes in an anime will often go through many transformations to convey a multitude of different things. They become the complete emphasis. In Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I didn't see much of that in the reveal trailer, but while analyzing the E3 trailer, I began to see instances where the facial expressions were a lot like that of an anime. Like after Rex shields his eyes, he does this thing where he opens them unevenly, or when Rex is looking at Pyra, his eyes contract when he's surprised and then slowly dilate as he focuses again. The part that really reminded me of anime in particular is when Rex does this special attack or whatever, and this girl is tearing through it with one sword, obviously being way more powerful than the protagonists at this point. But she does this thing with her eyes where she lowers her eyelids just slightly as if to be like, oh shit, this kid's more powerful than I expected, or some anime shit like that, I don't know. My point is, it's there, and in most cases it's pretty clear because Saito's designs are very anime influenced. Their nose and overall facial structure is very simple in order to draw attention to their most prominent features, their eyes, eyebrows, and mouths, the things that contribute the most to facial expression. I was gonna mention some of this back when I made that E3 video, but I figured that the facial expression in particular was probably something that gets improved upon a lot later in development. So I decided to wait until we got some more footage of the game to see if what I was saying held any weight. I myself wasn't fully on board yet with what they were trying to do, but the gameplay from the September Direct won me over, especially with the scene where Rex is eating his meal. It reminds me so much of anime with the way he opens his mouth cartoonishly wide and the way he eats with his eyes closed and grinning like he's just enjoying the shit out of it. Not to mention that his outfit makes so much more sense now that we've seen what his profession was. Also, I love how Pyra gives Rex this kind of somber smile when she turns her head to the side, or how Rex's pupils are contracted when he's concerned for Pyra. They actually made a few changes to existing scenes as well, like this part from the reveal trailer where an angry Rex is running up to strike his foe. I actually saw some people looking at these comparison photos and going, oh good, they changed Rex's eyes. They didn't change Rex's eyes, well, not much anyway. They changed his expression in this particular scene to better match what he's feeling. In the shot from the reveal, you just get some heavily tilted eyebrows to indicate his anger, but in the recent footage, you also get the extremely contracted pupils and these dark shadows on the insides of his eyes, revealing a much more furious and distressed Rex. And again, the facial expressions are very clear. Everyone's face has almost like this drawn-on kind of look that makes any subtle movement of their eyes or eyebrows plainly visible. It may have taken a while to get what they were initially looking for, but it totally makes sense to me now that one of the first pieces of concept art revealed for this game was the set of facial expressions from a few of the main characters. It seems like they were really shooting for this level of expressiveness from the very beginning. Obviously, no matter how built the faces are for animation, I'm sure the designs are still going to be a source of controversy. It is subjective after all. All I'm saying is that you should try to give it a little more time, even if they do feel a little off to you right now. Maybe after a while, you'll still hate them, but maybe you'll be like me and they'll grow on you. Because for me right now, these might end up becoming my favorite designs out of the 3 Xenoblade games once everything's said and done. Or maybe I'm just a weeb. I don't know. You make the call, I guess. Can we just not Wind Waker this, please? I think that's all I'm asking. Can we not Wind Waker this? Can we not be like, oh man, I want my realism-ism, and then 10 years later be like, oh, it was a good game after all, but no one bought it. That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate.